Rồi, bây giờ Ngọc Phạm và Trần Quang cùng với phái đoàn của gia đình Ray Sai BF đang đến tại cái nơi hang động rất là nature này. Đây, xin mời.
Đây là gia đình đó. Chúng tôi đây quý vị, hôm nay chúng tôi
Thánh Văn đây, đứng đây.
Bridge Carbon, một cái động rất là thiên nhiên ở dưới lòng đất. Thì quý vị đi về Việt Nam, quý vị thăm động Phong Nha đúng không? Bây giờ mình đã sang Santiago, nó nằm ngay trên đường đi đây. Dạ.
Chị Quý đây, chị Quý đây.
Người này thì đặc biệt là có mang theo một chiến binh nữa. Cho quý vị coi.
Dạ, chiến binh.
Chúng tôi cũng nhanh chóng thôi, có xe người ta vô kìa, nếu không người ta vô người ta mua vé trước mình thì chờ lâu lắm.
Rồi, thôi đi, mình đi, mình vô.
Quý đi vô đây.
Đây, Christmas đây.
Vô đi, chị Quý.
Rồi, chị Quý đứng vô đi, em sẽ coi cho.
Mỗi người đi cho nàng kia đi.
Rồi chị Quý vô. Đây chúng tôi đang ghi lại những cái hình ảnh đẹp.
Chụp cho thấy em cháu còn của bà này, cháu của bà.
Đây hai bà cháu ha, dễ thương, bà cháu dễ thương quá. Rồi đây là em Thái anh Văn. Rồi.
Không, cái quan trọng là lấy chữ Christmas em được hai vợ.
Rồi.
Welcome to Natural Bridge Caverns. The 12 o'clock Discovery Tour will be leaving shortly. The temperature inside the cavern is 70 degrees with a relative.
Đây là những cái xe bus để đưa quý khách
comfortable walking
đi tham quan.
that provides distraction on steep, wet surfaces. Restrooms are not available during the tour, and no food or drinks are permitted inside the cavern. Please follow the Discovery Village signs and proceed to the Cavern Tour Pavilion. Your tour guide Sharon will join you there shortly. Once again, all guests holding tickets for the 12 o'clock Discovery Tour.
Đây, bà chị Quý Nguyễn rất là dễ thương. Hai bà cháu. Bầu trời hôm nay cũng có mây. Hai em này, hai em ngồi nè.
Hai chị em vô đi tôi chụp cho. Em nó sẽ không sao đâu. Hai em chụp lại. Rồi, em sẽ lại.
Bây giờ xong rồi, nói cho nghe. Giờ có hai option. Nếu mà mua đơn ngay bây giờ 12 giờ đó, đi đó, ok, thì chị phải ở ra ngoài. Nhưng mà mua 12 rưỡi đó, thì nó sẽ có cửa nó giữ chó chị ở đây nữa, cho tôi chị đi. Chị đi vô trong giờ chị nhận để chó. Nó không cho mang chó vô động. Chị có muốn rời, vậy là chị không muốn rời con chó đúng không? Nó có khe nó gửi lại cho nó đúng không? Chị không chịu rời con chó, nó bỏ vô kia nó giữ chị không rời đúng không? Nên là chị ngoài này chị chơi nghe.
Quý đi động nhiều rồi.
Thế chị đi động nhiều rồi phải không? Vậy rồi bây giờ hai bà cháu đứng ngoài thôi phải không? Rồi đó. Bây giờ là vì có mang theo cháu phải không? Hả? Này đứng đây view cái cảnh này cho chị Vi ngồi xí qua đây xí. Đây để cái view này cứ để nguyên này. Không cứ để thế này ha. Rồi. Đây cứ để vậy ha. Đừng có động cái gì ha.
Không có động gì hết. Em không tay máy.
Ba chị em mình đi.
Em không. Em không có tay máy đây.
Qua đây.
Chị với anh Quang. Rồi vô đi chị. Tự động đó, nó chụp đúng không?
Không có chụp thì em quay hả?
Đây em quay đó. Hả?
Quay chứ không có chụp. Đây là quay không có chụp.
Dạ. Đẹp quá.
Đó, cái cảnh này nó quay nó đỡ rung.
Đúng rồi, Tam cầm tay mình rung. Quay mấy cái xe buýt du khách.
Rồi em xem rồi. Vậy là chị Quý Nguyễn đi nhiều rồi hôm nay để dành cho du khách ha, ở những tiểu bang xa tới. Đây, hai người đẹp tôi nhí nhảnh như con cá cảnh đây. Thấy không? Nhìn thấy không? Điệu chưa? Dễ sợ. Thấy không? Dễ thương chưa? Dễ thương chưa? Dễ thương chưa? Em đứng đây em coi chạy. Anh ơi. Đi hả? Rồi đi. Rồi thì đây ha. Rồi chị
12 giờ, bây giờ 12 giờ cách 2 phút rồi.
có vé của em chưa?
Ok, cầm giấy đi vô đi theo.
Vé của em đâu? Vé của em đâu?
Đang giữ vé đây.
Rồi, ok.
Đây,
Đây chúng ta đang vào.
Đi đường nào nhỉ?
Đây đường nào?
ok.
Vé.
Em vé nè.
Dạ cảm ơn anh.
Em vé nè. Bây giờ đi.
Anh chị đi ha. Anh chị ha. Đây đi.
Lấy sợi dây thun cột lại.
Cái gì vậy?
Cái gió nó bị rớt cái đế rồi.
Ô,
Mới tin á.
trời giày mới tin.
Lấy cái sợi dây cột lại.
Bây giờ có keo không hề?
Giày mới tin của chị Quý Quyền. Rồi, giày là made in
Ồ,
China rồi.
vậy thì China rồi.
Mới đây buổi sáng em phải cắt cái made in China rồi.
Trời ơi.
Chạy nó leo lên xe đi, em sửa cho chị.
Thôi, cứ lên xe ngồi đó.
Lấy sợi dây dài cột lại đâu rồi.
Thôi tí nữa lên dây kia kiếm dây.
Lấy cái dây dài. Chị lên đây em ngồi chuyên gia sửa chữa này.
Đúng rồi.
Ngồi đây đi.
Kiếm cái. Ok. Đây, đoàn du khách đi mà coi như rớt rét luôn. Đây là
Xin lỗi nha, made in China.
đó, chả biết sao mà dày thế này đây.
Đồ China nó thảm lắm, sorry nha.
Người đẹp và đi giày rớt luôn.
Giày mới để lâu quá không xài nó vậy đó. Đó, cho người nào mà muốn mua giày Tàu á lại đây mà mua.
Giày này đi bảo đảm tốt mà.
Giày em là ok, chứ em chưa kéo hạt mưa tuyên lên đâu. Chị nói tại đi bộ dữ lắm, đừng có mang giày lên nên bỏ giày. Còn em là dân sửa chữa mà chị. Cái gì mà
Đây là những giây phút mà coi như là lo lắng nhất. Lo lắng nhất. Ôi công nhận đi. Quá hiền.
Trời ơi tao nói Dương Anh là
Quay chụp tấm hình đó là bà tổng thống.
Đây.
Thái Anh Văn nè, Thái Anh Văn cột dài
đây này đang nói là
thấy chưa?
đây là những cái trường hợp
Hoàng thì hung chân đó không? Giáo Hoàng thì hung chân mà.
Thấy không?
Bữa nay chúng tôi list tiêu quý vị, đây là quyết D cho đánh giá chứ 28 thôi chứ không phải là 35.
Thấy chưa?
Thứ hai nữa đó là chị Quý Nguyễn, chị thương con chó quá chứ nó đồng ý nó giữ con chó chị cho chị.
Nhưng mà chị không chịu.
Chị cho chó ôm.
Rồi hên quá thì Thanh Văn.
Người có mỗi thích mà.
Đây chúng tôi đã có cái đôi giày.
Qua em có đây nè. Đây nè nó
Đây là made in China rồi.
Mới ra
Đây quý vị, made in China đây quý vị chờ chơi.
giày mới tin ai muốn xài đồ China cái gì là em sao mua đâu được đôi giày giống vậy trả chị Quý đây.
Không kệ chị về chị bỏ keo vô mà.
Em chị giống nhau 10 đôi giày hay đất đôi giày em 10 volley vậy cả nó biết chân.
Mới can luôn đó hả?
Dạ mới kèm. Hồi sáng em mới cắt luôn.
Adidas nhưng mà China sản xuất.
China.
Tiếng 15 phút chứ không có phải 30 phút như là chị Quý nói.
Thế hả?
Chị coi ở đâu chị nói không có. Con nhỏ áo đỏ nó dẫn được đi.
Rồi anh không phải đưa dù có xe, chị lục cơm cho ăn.
Hả?
Quên rồi, thôi lỡ rồi.
Có nó ở một công viên mà.
Không chị ăn rồi, chị ăn rồi.
Chị nói chị ăn lần chút chị thích hơn, chị ăn rất là ngon, chị ăn chị cảm thấy ngon hơn, chị nói vậy đó. Ôi tới giờ rồi.
Tới giờ.
không biết có lạnh không, hiện tại thì
Nóng mà, cũng không hôm nay không có lạnh. Rồi, đấy anh chị tôi, chị Quý Đặng và anh Hiền Trần đang ngồi chờ Elizabeth để đi thăm.
Chị
Đây đây
gì
Trần
chút
Quang.
xíu đi, bây giờ cũng già rồi, gặp gia đình mình
Đó.
chơi đồ. Sao rồi.
Cái anh vé kìa. Vậy là happy lắm rồi.
em quay chị em quay.
Thôi rồi.
Chị lại chị ngồi với chị Quý.
Rồi chị Quý đấy, rồi quay. Dạ,
Đây chị Quý đây. Chị Quý nè, chị Ngọc Phạm nè, anh Hiền nè. Thái.
Chúng tôi đang đi và Thái có ngồi đây.
Đây, tài tử gia nhân đây nha quý vị.
Rồi tài tử gia nhân, em ngồi vô em ngồi vô.
Ngồi đây với
Đó, toàn những người đẹp của gia đình Rai Sai BF thấy không? Nào, Liễu Nguyễn đâu giơ tay, Liễu Nguyễn giơ tay. Rồi chị Quý Đặng giơ tay. Quý Đặng giơ tay. Anh Hiền Trần giơ tay, Thanh Văn giơ tay. Đó. Cùng giơ tay phải không?
Không có cách, không mua thì lâu rồi nhưng mà em mua dài rồi
Keo.
nhà Mỹ mình lâu quá mình xài cho nó tóc nha.
chị mới đưa cho em mang, em lấy như vậy nó bự quá.
Ủa? Anh Quang đang đi tìm chị đó. Mà anh ở đâu rồi? Nhưng mà anh ở đâu? Ra rồi chị ngồi đây đi. Mà sao anh không thấy hả? Em gọi cho anh Quang thử sao mà chẳng thấy đâu vậy? Mà đưa chìa khóa cho chị Quý Nguyễn rồi mà sao không thấy? Ủa đưa chìa khóa cho Quý Nguyễn đâu mà đâu hả? Nhưng mà anh Quang không thấy. Nhưng mà sao bảo đưa chìa khóa rồi mà không thấy anh ấy chứ.
The following month rather, on August 5th, the late Governor John Connolly came to the caverns, and we actually had a dedication ceremony. The lower plaque up here is from that ceremony. And then that plaque is in honor of the cave discoverers and the cave developers, but it doesn't credit Mrs. Heidemann. And it was really Mrs. Heidemann who had the vision for what this place could become. So we added the upper plaque in 1982 in recognition of Clara Heidemann's vision and initiative. Do you have any questions about any of that? No? So before we go inside, I do have some really important rules that we must follow during the tour today. First and foremost, do not touch any of the natural parts of the cave, not the walls, ceiling, floor, or any of the formations. This is because we have oils on our skin that will actually damage the cave formations and stop them from growing. Additionally, it is against the law in the state of Texas to damage cave formations. We don't allow any sort of food or drinks other than water. If you do have any food or drinks other than water, I am going to ask that you throw them away up here before you head inside the cave. While we are inside, if you do have any trash you need to throw away, please ensure it makes its way into an appropriate trash receptacle. We do not allow any sort of littering inside. We also don't allow any sort of tobacco use. There's no smoking, vaping, or anything like that. We will be walking past the bodies of water. Please don't drop anything into that water. We want to keep it nice and clean. Additionally, we are not a wishing well. Save your money. Your wishes are not. We might see some critters inside. That could be things like crickets, spiders, toads, or bats. If we see any of those critters, please just leave them alone and do not take any flash photos of them. They are used to the dimly lit cavern, so a flash would be very unsettling. You can take flash photos, just not of animals. Now, all of the surfaces we're walking on are going to be steep and wet because it is 99% humidity inside. So we do recommend wearing rubber-soled shoes for good traction, taking slow, small steps, and using the handrails where they are available. This is also considered to be a somewhat strenuous tour. So we do ask that you consider any personal physical limitations you may have before entering the cavern. We will be descending 180 feet, which means you have to turn back up 180 feet. And we will be walking 3/4 of a mile today. It'll be a half a mile through the cavern and then a 1/4 mile back to the visitor center. This is a one-way tour, meaning we are not coming back out the way we went in. So it is very important that we all stay together on the trails and behind myself unless I tell you otherwise. If at any point you feel you can't continue, you need some extra assistance, or you want to get out for any reason, please just let me know and I will get you the help that you need.
Do y'all have any questions, comments, or concerns?
Send me video.
Okay, that's good. Thanks.
All right, so in the first area we go into, I do have a camera set up for you guys, so I'm actually going to be taking pictures of you and your family or friend group. So I am going to ask that you line up with whoever you want to be in that photo with. And then there is a sign on the wall about Texas Cavern Protection, and I'm going to have you wait beside and behind that sign so that you don't accidentally get into whoever's photo is being taken. And then I do need the last person in to make sure the door gets shut behind us. Can y'all do that for me? Excellent. Let's go.
Để họ đi trước.
Rồi đi trước, mình đi sau cùng. Đây anh chị đây.
Để họ đi trước đây. Họ đi trước. Không có người Việt ăn được. Go ahead. We go to the back. Yeah. Thank you.
Anh đi cẩn thận nha ha. Đi đường cẩn thận.
Mình vô một ngõ, mình ra một ngõ đó, chứ không có phải là anh Hiền coi cái
Không cái nó lo sao là phải.
Đừng có no, nhà nước no. Cháu cẩn thận này. Cẩn thận nha anh chị. Trong kia có đèn. Dạ, khói xếp.
cái này là ở trên là đất, dưới là đất, giống như hầm mỏ vậy đó. Nhưng mà nó gọi natural care, có nghĩa là
Tự nhiên thôi.
đi vô đây là ra ngõ khác. Đây là không tên cấp.
Cẩn thận nha anh.
Vị đang đi vào trong cái động natural care này. Tôi không có nói to được nha quý vị. Đây người ta hướng dẫn viên đó. Cái điều lạ là không có núi, toàn bộ là đất bằng ở trên, ở dưới này thì là có cái hang động này. Mấy chỗ có đèn chiếu cho nó đẹp.
Dạ. Thiên nhiên hết mà, natural hết.
That door is
The last people in should close.
Keep it open. Okay. Thank you. Wow, the sound looks good, huh?
I can take photos next for the photo.
One of my mom.
Thiên nhiên hết chị. Dạ.
Quay mấy cái nhũ
Thì em thấy là
nhũ đằng kia.
I can take the next group for the photo. Okay, well then y'all can just come on through. They're gonna take a photo. You'll actually be in the photo right there. So go ahead and y'all can go through.
Ok, tôi mình đi qua.
đi qua mấy bạn.
Y'all would be in the picture, so y'all just come on through. And then keep going a little bit, at least past this light on the handrail. Alrighty, y'all. Look right here. Smile, and we'll take our picture on 3. 1, 2, 3. Y'all can come on down.
Em quay chị.
So they're actually in a case in the visitor center. They're not still.
This is where it was found.
Yes.
We're like looking for it.
No worries. All right, y'all. Right now we are 45 feet below the natural bridge. We call this area the bear pit. As some of you may have noticed, we actually did find an 8,000-year-old black bear jawbone and a 5,000-year-old black bear leg bone up in the upper part of the room. Those bones are in a glass case in the visitor center if you'll want to check them out after the tour. Up here on the left are the raccoon rooms. There are passages and pockets back in the rock that way. When people were exploring down here, they found about 5 different raccoons that were living back there. However, those raccoons did move on out of here probably around the time we started creating a big old racket to put in all of these trails. Down on your left, or your right-hand side, I'm sorry, is the original entrance into the cavern. That is the beginning of that 120-foot long crawlway. It is a tight squeeze through there. At its widest, it is 11 inches wide. Or, I said that wrong. At its narrowest, it is 11 inches wide. At its widest, it is 22 inches wide. So it is a tight squeeze. Luckily, we will not be going through there. Instead, we will be going through our humidity doors. On the other side of these doors, it is going to be even more humid. So again, all of the surfaces are steep and wet, so please take slow, small steps as we continue through here. At the bottom of this tunnel, we are going to come into an area called St. Mary's Hall. At that point, we will be 90 feet below the natural bridge, and we are going to keep on moving fairly quickly through St. Mary's Hall to get into the first room in the cavern. That section of trail is actually the narrowest section of trail, and it does not have a handrail. So it is very important that you do not touch the walls as we move through St. Mary's Hall. And also watch your head, especially if you're taller than 5'5", which I know several of you are, because the ceilings are quite low. I say 5'5" because I'm 5'5" and I cruise on through, but it's still pretty close to my head, so definitely watch your forehead. You got any questions? All right, let's go.
Absolutely not.
I know.
Yeah, want me to keep
Có những chỗ trượt kìa.
rất là tốt quý vị. Tôi đang đi sâu xuống cái lòng đất, đi sâu cái lòng đất.
Yeah, what was that?
Đẹp quá quý vị. Wow. Cái xe con sò này. Wow. Quá đẹp. Đẹp quá. Đây.
Dạ, cái đèn lên.
Đây chúng ta đang đi vào những cái khu rất là tối tăm, vẫn gọi là hang động chứ. Hang động này đẹp lắm quý vị.
Anh Hoàng đi phía trước nè.
Đẹp quá.
Đẹp quá.
Nhìn trên này như vậy. Yeah.
Đẹp quá. Đẹp quá. Chúng tôi đang đi vô mê cung. Giờ đẹp quá.
Giống như vô động thiên thai quá ha.
Động thiên thai. Ở đây có rất là nhiều thạch nhũ quý vị.
Đây đẹp lắm. Nhiều quá chị ơi.
Có rất nhiều thạch nhũ quý vị. Bám vô nó nữa. Quay sao được ta? Quay thấy nó không? Anh nhìn trong cái này nó ra nó giống cái gì đó.
Alright, y'all. So we are currently 108 feet below the natural bridge. This room is called Pluto's anteroom, and it is the first room that the discoverers entered. They came in through the crawling that next to the tunnel we just came out of. They came in here and they saw the formations on the slope. They thought that it looked like a scene from the underworld. And as they continued through the cavern, they actually realized that this was the smallest room in the cave system. So they decided to name this room Pluto's anteroom, Pluto for the Roman god of the underworld, and anteroom because it is a smaller room leading into larger rooms. Now, this room has some very beautiful examples of the different kinds of formations we're going to see throughout the caverns today. None of these formations would be here if it weren't for rain. Every time it rains, water soaks through the soil where it picks up carbon dioxide from decaying plants and animals. That mixes with the water to form a weak carbonic acid. That acid can dissolve limestone, which is all of the rock that's around us. And when it does dissolve that limestone, it picks up multiple minerals. One of those minerals is calcite. As the water eventually enters the cavern, the carbon dioxide is lost as a gas to the air down here. And then as the water drips or flows through the cavern, it deposits calcite, which crystallizes and hardens, forming all of these formations. They are growing very slowly. On average, we believe they're growing at a rate of 1 inch every 100 years. Now, if water drips through the caverns, that forms what are called flowstones, and those are illuminated on that slope for y'all. If water deposits calcite on the floor so that the formations are growing from the floor toward the ceiling, that creates a dripstone called a stalagmite. They might reach the ceiling one day. Then up growing from the ceiling toward the floor, we have some stalactites. They hold tight to the ceiling. And then we also have a special kind of stalactite up there. All of those that are very narrow and clear are actually called soda straw stalactites because they are hollow, just like a straw. Now sometimes if water drips in the same place for a very long time, stalagmites and stalactites can grow together, and that forms a column. Now water also flows through the cavern. If it flows across the floor, it creates a large smooth formation called a flowstone, and we have some flowstone around the slopes around these dripstones. But water can also flow across the ceiling and the walls, and when it does, it creates other kinds of flowstones as well. So if you look on the walls in this room, we have some flowstones growing out from those walls. This section right here, where it kind of looks like somebody has pinched the wall and pulled it out towards them, that is called a cave ribbon. We also have sections where they have actually disconnected from the wall or the ceiling and are hanging into the room. Those are called cave curtains. And then up here on my right, behind these lovely folks, we have a cave drapery. This is a large flowstone that is touching the wall and the floor at the same time. So that is a little bit about the formations we're going to see today. Now, our scientists are surveying for signs of living things. There's actually some pretty, I think, obvious signs of things that used to live in here. What do y'all think might have lived in here in the past? Bats. Bats. Do you see anything you think that bats left behind?
Probably bears.
So we have bears, evidence of bears up in the bear pit, right, with those bones.
Get down fast.
They might have come down here. They probably couldn't have gotten back out if they did. But we have a lot of evidence of a colony of bats living in here. So there's two primary ways we know that. One is these darkened spots on the ceiling and the edge of these rocks over here. We call those bat roosts. And this is where the bats actually slept in here. So they have oils in their fur, just like we have oils in our skin, that damaged the ceiling, creating that discoloration, and the ceiling will actually never grow from where the bats used to sleep in here. Now, there's also some there's also some black-brown material on these fallen rocks over here. Does anybody know what that is? So we call it bat guano. We've actually taken samples of this bat guano, and we know that the newest bat guano is about 5,000 years old. So that tells us that there were bats living in here up until about 5,000 years ago, which might mean that they didn't return after the sinkhole collapsed. Do y'all have any questions? No questions. Are y'all ready to keep moving?
Yes.
All right. From here, we will be descending 72 feet using switchbacks. They are very steep and wet, so it's very important that you take slow, small steps and use the handrails. You also want to take wide turns. So you want to go around the outside of the turn on the switchbacks. That is where you're going to find the best traction for your footing as we continue downward. Excuse me, folks. Have y'all found anything interesting? Found a bunch of people.
Em sợ trời chỉ vừa quay chỉ mê quay để chỉ bước xuống cái than mà thấy đường nó ăn mại đó. Cẩn thận chị.
Cẩn thận anh chị nha.
Giống như cái xương chị anh này, giống như cái xương
Thạch nhũ. Động hoa vàng đấy anh Hiền. Động hoa vàng đấy. Bây giờ vẫn mơ thấy em ở trong động hoa vàng. Thấy cái gì đâu. Thấy đâu mà thấy. Thôi đi.
Đây, Thái Anh Văn coi chừng chỗ này nè nghe em. Đụng đầu á. Thái Anh Văn coi chừng chỗ này nè. Xuống mau anh nè.
Đẹp quá thôi từ từ. Họ nói đi nhanh quá mình không có thể quay những cái cảnh đẹp đây này. Đây quý vị thấy đẹp quá. Đây quý vị thấy đẹp quá luôn. Đúng là một kỳ thác đấy. Những cây nhũ chọc trời quý vị. Cây nhũ đấy quý vị.
Đi xuống đây cho kìa, nhìn kìa.
Trời đẹp quá kìa.
Anh Hiền đang
Trời đẹp quá. Giống như cái con bạch tuộc à? Hay những cái con mực ấy.
In this room, we are 180 feet below the natural bridge. So this is the deepest point we'll be walking through on the tour today. However, it is not the deepest point you'll get to see in the cavern. They saw the formations at the front of the room, and they thought that the stalagmites looked like tree trunks, and that the glowstones over here looked like tree tops. So they decided to name it after the forest and the adventures of Robin Hood. I would like to welcome all of you to Sherwood Forest. On the left-hand side of Sherwood Forest, this column here is the second tallest column in the cavern. It is 32 feet tall and about 8 inches wide. We will get to see the tallest column in our next room. Now this room is much larger than the previous room we were in. So it's a good place to talk about how the caverns, the spaces in the rock got here. In order to explain that, we first have to explain how the rock got here. About 120 to 140 million years ago, Texas was actually at the bottom of a warm, shallow sea. Sediments from plants, animals, rocks, clay, sand, shells settled at the sea floor, and they built up in layers. Over time, those layers became very heavy and pressed downward on each other, forming a sedimentary rock. In this case, it forms the limestone that makes up the floor, the ceiling, and all of the walls in a cavern. If you look at the walls, you're looking at really old limestone, and you can pick out some of those different layers of sediments that were laid down. When the rock formed, it would have completely filled with space. However, about 20 million years ago, there were earthquakes. Those earthquakes created cracks in the rock called joints. Water seeped into those joints, and given enough water and enough time, the water actually started to carve or erode large spaces like this one. At one point, this room would have been filled with water, but it did eventually drain further into the earth, into an aquifer below us. When that happened, air came into the cavern and filled all of those open spaces, and that created the ideal environment for all of these formations to start to grow. Do y'all have any questions?
How big is the column like that?
I'm sorry?
How big is the column like that?
So they could take samples of the calcite. They wouldn't be able to take like a surface sample because that would be the most recently deposited calcite. So they'd probably have to take more like a core.
Do you know how old it is?
Not that I'm aware of. Any other questions? Are you ready to keep going?
Yes.
All right. From here, we will be crossing the deepest point in the cavern. We call it Purgatory Creek, and it is 211 feet below the Natural Bridge. It's going to be about 30 feet beneath the bridge we are crossing it on. Now, it's very important that you do not drop anything over the side, whether that's your phone, wallet, keys, lucky charm, spouse. Nobody's going to come and get it for you. It is staying in Purgatory forever. So be sure that you are taking careful steps across the bridge and don't drop anything down there.
Don't drop the gun. I'm probably the one who can't be over.
Thank you.
They don't go. Yeah. I don't know exactly.
It's all just, you can see the layers. Yeah.
Cầm biết trời, Thái nó quay, Lê quay nó quay à. Rồi chuyến đi này rất là xứng đáng nha.
Quá đẹp.
Đẹp quá đẹp. Bà chị tôi Lê quay quá chừng luôn, cảnh đẹp. Hai anh chị thì chị lắm luôn, chị chưa. Dễ thương, chị dễ thương không?
Đẹp quá, anh đi đi, anh cứ đi đi. Chắc giờ đi ra. Nóng chứ đâu có lạnh đâu. May quá. Vô động Hòa Vàng lạc hứng. Lên.
Cái này động thiên thai đó nha.
Động thiên thai đấy, anh Hiền mà còn. Anh Hiền 80 mấy tuổi mà ra còn muốn thấy thăm động thiên thai mà. Không chi Trần Quang phải không? Ôi trời ơi, trên kia đẹp lắm rồi. Chỗ này không thấy gì hết luôn quý vị. Quý vị, chỗ này là từ từ họ sẽ đắp từ từ, họ mới bật đèn lên, họ mới bật đèn từ từ lên.
In this room, we are 150 feet below the Nashville Bridge. This is the second largest room in the cavern. It's 50 feet tall, 50 feet wide, and 250 feet long. But again, that only makes it the second largest room in the cavern.
Đấy, quý vị thấy không? Bừng sáng.
Now, this room is actually home to the largest formations in the cavern. That is why we call it the Castle of the White Giants, for our White Giant formations. And we are going to move up into the middle of the room to get a better view of those formations. And there are 2 benches that y'all are welcome to sit on up here as well.
I was walking like this.
Wow.
Patchouli.
Is that one of those ribbons? Is that what that's called? Or is that called something different?
This one hanging down,
That's a curtain.
that's a curtain.
Curtain, yeah.
There is a ribbon right next to it that's connected.
So we have to connect all the areas and everything.
So if y'all would like to take a seat while I'm talking, the two benches are over past me. Well, you're welcome to sit on those. However, most of us will have to stand. Up here in the middle of the room are our three white giant formations. The first one here is this tall column. It is the tallest column in the cavern at 50 feet tall, and it is about 8 feet wide. And we call it the watchtower because it looks like a big tower that somebody might be watching out from. In the middle of the room, we have the mount of the landlord. The little pockets on the side kind of look like apartment balconies. And the stalagmite on the left looks like a man with his hand on his hip looking over a building. So that is the landlord. But more importantly, the mount of the landlord is actually the largest stalagmite in the cavern. It has not yet connected with any of the formations hanging down above it. Our third white giant formation requires a little bit of imagination. It's the king's throne. So our king is actually waiting for us in the next room, but his throne is right here at the bottom of this formation, along with a nice footstool and some beautiful cave chandeliers. Cave chandeliers are cave curtains that have grown together over a very long period of time. And then if you look back, hanging from the ceiling between the mounts of the landlord and the watchtower, we have some lovely cave bacon. Unfortunately, if you took a bite of this bacon, it would probably break your teeth. These are more cave curtains that have something called humic acid dissolved in them. Water picks that up from the soil and deposits it in the formations, giving it that red-brown striping. And if you see red-brown coloring on other formations, that is from humic acid as well. The water in the cavern is very clean and clear. It is naturally filtered by the limestone. However, when we have enough of it cooling, it starts to take on a blue-green color, not because of anything in the water or on the bottom. It's just the way the light is refracted by the water makes it appear kind of a blue-green. As we are making our way out of this room, we will be passing by the entrance to the second deepest point in the cavern. That will be on your right-hand side under a handrail. It's called Brindle's Canyon, and it is 207 feet below the natural bridge. It's also the original passage to get from this room to the next room we will be going into. However, I don't want to see if there's anything lurking down there. So instead of going through Brindle's Canyon, we are going to get out of here using some stairs. Those stairs are very wet and steep, so take them carefully, use the handrail, and watch your head and your shoulder because the wall does jut out over the stairs. Before we head out of here, does anybody have any questions? So those are called dissolution pockets. They were carved out by water, but it was a natural process. Any other questions? All right. Do you have a question?
We're just wondering about the footprint.
So if we need to work on our lights or anything, or occasionally we have to come in and pick up random trash, we just walk through the water. Nothing too fancy. Any other questions? All right, then let's continue onward.
Đây, đây. Liễu kìa, cái nhũ, cái nhũ thì đẹp quá hề.
But in the deeper rooms, we'll still take you down from here and just move around the room to come on back this way. But if water's in there, we just don't go over there. Look at that. It's like well water. It's healthy. It has a lot of calcium in it. So some people think it has like a taste. It really just depends. Some people really think it tastes good. Some people say it's kind of sweet, and some people think it's yeah. We have a water fountain that just comes from the fact we don't taste it. Besides, up here, we are 135 feet below the surface. This is a natural spot where water tends to pool in the cavern. When there is enough water in here after we've had enough rain, it takes on a green color. Again, that's just because we're shining light into the water. If you look along the edge, you can see the water lines to see how high the water can come in here. And then up here next to me, this is another kind of flowstone called a rimstone pool. As the water overflows from the top, it trickles down, depositing those little rings of calcite. We are going to continue this way. This is a natural passage in the rock. Grindle's Canyon will be crossing underneath our feet. When we come into the next room, Grindle's Canyon will be a large, dark pool on your left-hand side.
Không con núi mà nó lại có động hai đâu hả? Không con núi mà lại có động hả? Dưới lòng đấy.
tối quý vị.
Lẹ thôi đó, người ta đi hết rồi. Mau.
And that was the way the discoverers originally came from the Castle of the White Giants to the room that we are in now. There is about a 70-foot climb from these rocks on the edge down into the bottom of Brindle's Canyon.
Vui quá không thấy gì luôn. Excuse me. Tối quá quý vị, không thấy gì luôn. Thôi, chưa ra ngoài luôn.
Parts of the cave. So that's the walls, the formations, the ceiling, anything on the other side of the handrail. So this is the other side of Brindle's Canyon. It is the second deepest point at 207 feet below the natural bridge. And it was the original passage from the Castle of the White Giants to the room we are in now. This room is actually the largest room in our cavern. So this room, from its highest point, is 100 feet tall, 100 feet wide, and 350 feet long. And that makes it not only the largest room in our cavern, but the largest show cave in the state of Texas as well. So y'all are welcome to have a seat on the benches in here. We're going to talk about this room for a little bit. The reason this room is so large is because it formed through a slightly different process from the other rooms we've been in today. In the ceiling of this room, there were multiple of those cracks, those joints in the rock. But in this room, they actually intersected one another, so they connected with each other. Where they connected over time, that weakened the ceiling. As long as there was water in here, it wasn't a problem because the water actually held the ceiling in place. But when all of the water drained out, there was nothing to hold the ceiling up anymore, so it started to fall away layer by layer and piece by piece until it reached a stable layer of limestone. So if you look at the ceiling here, you can see those layers of limestone, and those are the beginning of some stable layers. But the reason this room is so large is it took a very long time in the upper part of the room to reach a layer of limestone that was strong and stable. However, collapse stopped, and it did stop a long time ago. We know that from the rocks on the ground around us. So the rocks in here are called breakdown, and they are the rocks that fell from the ceiling to create basically a large dome up there. But if you look on top of all of that breakdown, it has very significant calcite deposits and formations growing on top of it. So that tells us that collapse stopped, and it stopped a long time ago. If collapse was still occurring, the newly fallen rocks would either stop these formations from starting to grow in the first place, or would break them off. So at this point, there is no concern of collapse. Now, because this room is very tall, we actually have a special kind of stalagmite in here. They are called fried egg stalagmites, and they have a naturally flat top. We'll see them, a whole bunch of them, on the way up, and I'll stop to point some of those out. How are y'all feeling? Good. Are you ready to keep going? Okay. It is very humid, yeah. So this is considered the most strenuous part of the tour. We'll take one break as a group. If you need to take additional breaks to catch your breath, that's okay, but please leave room on the trail for other folks to pass you by. And it is very, 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 very important, I cannot emphasize this enough, that we do not touch any of the formations, the walls, anything like that, because we are going to be extremely close to formations on this trail. So do not touch them, touch the handrail, and nothing else. If at any point you feel you can't continue or you need some extra assistance, please let me know and I will get you the help that you need. Y'all ready to go? Yes. All right. Follow. So cool.
Here.
Wow. Cổng trời.
Personally, I think they look more like stacks of pancakes. But there are a whole bunch of them in this area, so definitely keep an eye out. Now up here on the wall, I think this large group of formations looks like a big battleship. And then next to the battleship, there is a castle. Now we are going to keep on moving up, and just another friendly reminder, only touch that handrail. There is plenty of room to spread out up here at the top of the Hall of the Mountain King. There's also one bench up here, so don't fight over it. Up here at the top of the Hall of the Mountain King, we are 85 feet below the surface. The ceiling above us is 55 feet thick of limestone. Now, as y'all were coming around that last turn, you might have noticed a lot of darkness back there. We have a little bit of light back there. So from the light at the end, that yellow-orange blinking light, the cavern continues at least for another 1.5 miles. So that does mark another 1.5 miles of mapped but undeveloped cavern. If that's something you're interested in seeing a small portion of, we do offer Discovery Adventure Tours, which continue from here. They go off trail through the Valley of the Fallen Lords to that light. Beyond that light, they continue 1/4 mile before returning back the way they came to exit the cave. If that's something you are interested in, we have information about those tours at the office in our visitor center. We are also still exploring back that way as well. Since May of 2019, we discovered another 1,600 feet of cavern back there, and there was 7,500-year-old bat guano down there as well. In this room, you may have noticed a whole bunch of bat guano on the way up. The bat guano in here is about 15,000 years old. And if you look up on the ceiling, there is a large bat roost up on the ceiling as well. Now, this room is called the Hall of the Mountain King, and it was named for the Mountain King Formation in the middle of the room here. So this is the Mountain King Formation. To me, as I look at the whole thing, I see a big pirate ship. But if you look up at the shadow on the ceiling, you kind of see perhaps a person with a crown on their head. So that is our Mountain King. Now, you guys are welcome to take a look from our observation deck or get a drink from our cavern water fountain. It is pumped from a well inside the cavern, so it is real clear water and it is safe to drink. This actually marks the end point of the tour. If you have come on this tour when you first started them back in 1964, when you got up here, as tired as you are, you would have to turn around and go all the way out the way you came in. However, people didn't like that. So in 1965, we blasted out this exit tunnel. Honestly, I don't know if it's better to climb back the way you came. But you can take this exit tunnel back up to the surface, and then it is a 1/4 mile walk back to the visitor center. The pictures we took at the beginning will be on sale on that walk as well. From this point, I will actually be following the last person out. So y'all are free to head on up to the surface whenever you are ready. I hope y'all enjoyed this tour today. I hope you think that we have a spectacular cavern. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, a happy holiday season, and safe travels back home. It's my pleasure. Good. I think so too.
Đi đi.
Vô cái đường hầm đó phải có thì
À thế à? Rồi vậy thôi.
nó có cái màu.
À rồi. Chụp hình này.
No, so this is the end of the tour. So whenever you're ready, you're going to head up this way to get out of here, and I'll be following the last one.
Liễu.
Nhưng mà ai chụp? Anh cho. Rồi. Phải thấy anh Văn.
Liễu đâu? Chụp
Anh đâu?
Anh Hiền đâu?
Anh đã uống nước.
Kêu anh Hiền là kêu Liễu lại đây chụp tóc nhà mình có đủ. Đó, em đứng trước, em cúi tóc. Đó. Em ngồi xuống vậy đó. Đó, anh chị em đứng. Đó, đợi mọi người.
Rồi thì cái chụp ngay đã đi.
Được ai thì chụp mình.
Rồi một cái Liễu rồi là.
Anh Hiền. Đây nữa. Anh nữa chị. Anh ở đúng là lắp vô lại trắng. Quên mò.
Đâu có đủ người đâu, đi một đoàn 104 người là sao?
Vô đây nè.
Còn Liễu đâu?
Đã đi ra rồi đó. Cho đỡ nước đi.
Đi ra
Anh Hiền.
đi ra bằng cái ngõ nào? Kia bác kia kìa.
Rồi lên chút xíu nữa là đi ra chỗ ngoài đó. Bây giờ mình
Đi ra cái chỗ đèn hả chị?
dạ.
Ra chỗ đèn có phải trả tiền các bạn gì không?
Kêu mình chơi xong mình nó chụp hình ra đi ra là mình đi lấy đó.
Thôi mở cửa đi xuống đây mới là đi ra.
Nó chụp hình.
Đi về mà đi ngõ nào? Đi ra cái ngõ đèn hả? Ok. Đứng lại đây một cái. Ok. 1, 2, 3 đủ không?
Rồi.
Quá đẹp.
Rồi, chụp tấm đó đi.
Cái nữa ra rồi để cho họ
Cho người ta chụp nữa.
Rồi. Thôi, để anh xem đi ra đi xuống đây luôn hả?
Đi lên đường cái đi về chị.
Đi răng chưa đi về. Nóng. Đi về hả? Bye bye.
Những cột bông nữa ha. Động thêm 2 cột bông.
Nếu sợ đâm đầu.
Ra luôn có để ra không?
Dạ.
Rồi ra đó.
Chồng mẹ cưng chó quá cái gì đâu. Đã tới đây rồi.
Nóng ha. Nóng quá đâu. Công nhận cái hàng động đẹp quá nhỉ. Mỏi hết cả tay luôn.
Không qua nhà.
Có chứ không quay.
Xíu là mình
Mỏi quá.
sát cái đó là hết rồi. Được không? Mình vừa cùng chúng tôi 1 tiếng 15 phút đi thăm cái động thiên thai trong đời.
1 tiếng rưỡi luôn đấy chứ. Rồi thôi.
Mệt nhưng mà vui. Chúng tôi
Tí nữa ra ngoài chào anh.
Đợi gia đình mình lên đây đi đứng đông rồi chúng tôi
chạy coi như
nhưng mà vui. Đợi phái đoàn mình lên đứng một bên.
không đi ra ngoài luôn đấy. Không ra ngoài nữa.
Chỗ này
đi ra ngoài sáng luôn.
Chỗ này nè, cũng đèn sáng đẹp.
Sáng mà không thấy cái biểu tượng gì.
Đi là đâu có đẹp, chỗ này còn đẹp.
Đây đây.
Nhà mình lên đó đi.
Thôi là Ngọc Phạm và Trần Quang xin bye bye mọi người, không hết nào.
Có chụp tấm hình cho gia đình
Hết.
không?
Không, cái máy của em không có thể dùng được, máy
Ok.
em quay video mà sao?
Được rồi, mình chia tay mọi người.
Bye.
Ok.